students, today we'll be doing module 37, Principles of Hygiene and Sanitation in Food Service Establishment. This module will be covered under Introduction on Hygiene and Sanitation. Then we are going to talk about the requirements in food service establishment such as cleaning and sanitation, equipment maintenance, pest control, waste management, monitoring the effectiveness of these processes. In the end, we'll be concluding this module. When we talk about sanitation and hygiene, first of all, we should know what is the meaning of these words. This word sanitation is derived from a Latin word known as sanitas, which means health. The definition of sanitation is maintenance of hygienic conditions through services such as garbage collection and waste disposal. This definition has been given by World Health Organization (WHO). So when we talk about sanitation, the next word is hygiene. Hygiene means conditions and practices which help to maintain health and prevent the spread of diseases. Hygiene and sanitation both go hand in hand. So when we talk about hygiene and sanitation requirements in a food service establishment, they are very essential because they affect the food safety. They are also impacting the quality of the food. They can also lead to increased or decreased productivity. And last but not the least is their impact on the public health. Before we start talking about this module on hygiene and sanitation, it is very important for us to understand the meaning of certain terms. These terms will be used randomly and interchangeably in the module. Therefore, the students must understand what is the literal meaning of each and every term which is being used. The first term, cleaning. This is a removal of visible soil and debris from the surfaces. Sanitation, on the other hand, is the reduction of bacteria to safe levels as per the public health norms, so that there is a decrease in the risk of infections. And when we talk about disinfection, we are talking about elimination of pathogens and disease causing microorganisms, but not the bacterial spores because they are very resistant. So when we talk about the food service establishment, it is very important for us to understand what do we mean by food service establishments. These are the places where food is prepared and portioned into various unit sizes and the consumption can occur on and off the premises. These can be hotels, these can be restaurants, these can be the fast food outlets, canteens in the colleges, in the schools, and also the cafeterias which are in the offices and institutions. We cannot forget about the religious places in India which run such big public kitchens or where langars are happening. We can also include the catering in railways, airlines, and even in the hospitals. So when we talk about the principles of food hygiene, they have been given by the Codex Alimentarius. The guidelines are divided into various sections such as the objectives of the principles, which are also known as GHPs, Good Hygienic Principles. Then we have the scope and the use of the document, which takes care of the next section, right, that is the primary production, the establishment. When we talk about the establishment, we talk about the design and the facilities. Then we have the control of the operations which are taking place in the food premises. Then we have the establishment which is looking after the maintenance and the sanitation part. Then we are also talking about personal hygiene, which is very critical because the food handlers, they are acting as the source of contamination. Then we have a section on transportation because we have to take care when the food is being transported, it should not get contaminated and it becomes unsafe till it reaches the consumer. Then we also have a very important section, that is a section 9th, which is on product information and consumer awareness. The last section, that's the 10th section, is based on the training, because whenever we talk about hygienic principles, we need to train people, we need to change their mindset and also tell them to adapt these practices. As per the latest food and safety standard regulation of India, this part has been adopted under part 5th of schedule 4th. So when we talk about the principles and the guidelines of hygiene, we'll be looking at different aspects. The first thing is the layout. The design of the food production unit should be unidirectional to prevent cross-contamination. If there is a constraint in the space, then we can follow a U model so that the raw material is entering from one level and is moving out from the another door. Then we have the floors, ceilings and the walls of the establishment. These should be easy to clean and they should be free from any kind of cracks. It's very important that these surfaces are non-absorbent in nature. The doors, when we are talking about the doors, they should be fitted with the automatic closers so that whenever anybody is moving in and out, they close immediately. At some places, we can also line these doors with the air curtains. When we talk about the flooring, it is very important that there should be a proper slope for the drainage, because as you all know, lots of water is being used in the processing of any kind of food in the plant. It is very important for us to keep a check on the entry of pests, insects, rodents to the processing area, and this can be done by covering the drains, because these are the routes through which they enter into the food plant. We should also have wire mesh and screens attached on the windows and doors. We should make sure that all the openings which are there to the outside environment, they are protected, covered, so that the entry of the pest is restricted or minimized. The next thing which is very important is the equipment and containers. As you all know, in processing of food, we are using large number of equipments for processing foods at various stages. So when we talk about these equipments and containers, these are the food contact surfaces and they can play a very important role in making the food safe. The requirements are that these are being made of non-corrosive material which should be smooth and free from any crack. It's very important that these are easy to clean and maintain, and we should also use non-toxic, non-reactive and food grade quality material in the manufacture of these equipments and containers. Whenever we are talking about a food plant, we should also talk about the facilities such as water supply. Water supply should be regular and the water quality should be of potable nature. If we are not able to get water which is of potable nature, it is very important for us to treat the water and then use the water for processing or cleaning purposes. The next thing is the drainage and waste disposal, which requires lots of attention, because if these are not proper, the chances of contamination are very high. We should also be providing personal facilities to the workers so that the transfer of microorganisms from the workers into the food is minimized. As we all know, air quality is very important. Why? Because this air carries so much of dust and dirt particles which are acting as the vehicles of movement of these microorganisms. Even the ventilation system has to be given a thought in any food service establishment. We should make sure that the quality of air is monitored on a regular basis. Storage is very important in a food service establishment, because we tend to store various kind of food products. They can be the raw materials, they can be the processed food material, and they can be also the hazardous chemicals which we are going to use for cleaning. But the key feature here is that all the storage areas should be dry and segregated, and all the storage containers should be properly labeled and stacked properly. When we talk about the key areas or the areas of focus when we are talking about hygiene and sanitation, they are the cleaning and sanitation aspect of the program, the pest control system, waste management, and yes, when these systems are in place, how are we going to monitor them? So monitoring their efficacy or effectiveness is very, very important. So these are the four main areas of concern for any person who is talking about the sanitation and hygiene of a food service establishment. Coming to the first one, that is cleaning and sanitation. Adequate facilities for the cleaning and disinfection of equipments must be provided. The plant should have ample facilities for cleaning in place if possible. If not, then they should have cleaning out of place, that is COP. When you have a COP thing, we should have a separate and identified area which should be there with adequate potable water supply, drainage and cleaning agents. When we talk about the food contact surfaces, they should be always kept in good condition so that there is an ease of cleaning and sanitation. Storage containers should be labeled, stored separately to prevent accidental contamination of food from hazardous chemicals. Most of the time, these are the cleaning solutions which are being used in the system. So when we talk about cleaning and sanitation, it's very, very important to understand that we are going to use different types of methods. These can be classified by various categories. One of the categories is on the types of agents which are used for cleaning. Cleaning in some places is also known as disinfection when we are trying to make sure that all the pathogens are removed, or sanitation when the target is specific group of microorganisms. So we can have physical and the chemical methods. When we talk about the physical methods, they can be subdivided into heat and radiation. When we are talking about the heat, which is very, very commonly used in the food service establishment, we can have the moist heat, that is the steam. We can also use the dry heat. We can also use radiations. The commonly used radiations are the UV rays and the gamma rays. On the other hand, chemicals also are being used in the food industry, and we have various categories of chemical disinfectants. Cleaning in the food industry should be adopted as per the food being processed. For example, in the dairy industry, we usually opt for CIP, that is cleaning in place modules. These modules can be dependent on the type of the components. For example, we can have a cleaning module for the hot components and we can have a cleaning module for the cold components. I would like to explain the CIP program for a pasteurizer which comes under the hot component. The first step is that we rinse with warm water. This rinse should take place for 10 minutes. This is followed by circulation of alkaline solution. The strength of the alkaline solution can be 0.5 to 1%, which is done for 30 minutes and the temperature usually is 75 degrees C. After this, we are rinsing out the alkaline solution with warm water for 5 minutes. This is followed by circulation of acid solution. The strength of the acid solution can be 0.5 to 1%. This is being circulated for 20 minutes at a temperature range of 65 to 70 degrees C. Then we have rinsing with warm water. In some places, in some plants, we are also trying to use an acid solution run so that to neutralize the remaining alkali which is remaining on the surfaces, and finally we are doing final rinsing with water. Coming up to the next circuit, that is a CIP program for pipes, tanks, which are the cold components. It is much more simpler as it involves rinsing with warm water for 3 minutes, circulation with 0.5 to 1.5% of alkaline solution at 75 degrees C for 10 minutes, then followed by rinsing with warm water which takes place for 3 minutes, and finally the last step is disinfection with hot water which is at a temperature of 90 to 95 degrees C for 5 minutes. Now we are going to talk about a very important component, that is pest control. As we all know, a food establishment is prone to pest infestation. We have to seriously look into the issue if we want to maintain hygiene and sanitation in food service establishment. So what is a pest? Pest is an organism which can cause injury or harm to human beings and other living biological systems or products. Why it is very important? Because this helps in avoiding the risk of disease transmission, and it also helps in avoiding spoilage and wastage of food. If pest control systems are in place, we can ensure that the food is safe and it is free from any kind of harmful microorganisms. When we talk about the pests, there are various groups of pests which can be found in food service establishments. These can be the ones such as birds, reptiles, amphibians, sometimes fishes, rodents and other small mammals. We can also have insects, mites, ticks, spider, snails and slugs. When we talk about different types of pests, there should be some mechanism to control these pests. We usually adopt a 4D strategy to control the pest in food service establishment. These 4Ds are deny entry to the pest, deny food to the pest, deny shelter to the pest, and if this is not happening, destruct or destroy the pest. When we have a number of pests which can infest the food premises, we have to find out some effective pest control methods which can be used to stop the entry of these pests into the premises. We can see the rat cages which can help in catching the rodents. We can have the glue boards. These glue boards are for insect trapping. Then we can also have the end sealing of the pipelines which are not in use. We can also make use of insect cutters which are kept outside the production area, which will keep the entry of insects in check, but they are effective for a radius of 3 m, that's 3 meters only. Then we can also talk about the temper resistant bait stations which can be used, and we can also put mesh and grills on the drainage so that the pests do not gain entry and spoil or contaminate the food. After pest control, it is very important to take charge of the waste management. This is one area which should not be ignored, otherwise all other systems in place will be a failure. So, the waste should be regularly collected as per the waste management policy, and this policy should be laid down on the basis of the regulations and as suggested by the regulatory authorities. All the waste generated at the premises should be collected, categorized according to the type of waste and stored in specified dustbins which should be provided with lid, and they should be kept at identified areas and should be cleaned regularly. As you can see in this photograph that we are segregating the waste depending upon colors, and each color stands for a specific type of waste. For example, we are using the red for oily waste which is coming, green is used for the paper waste, blue is used for plastic jars, sampling bottles, plastic bags they should be thrown into a bin which is yellow in color, Polish filters, if they are being used and discarded, they should be dumped into a grey color bin. Food waste should be entering into an orange color bin, and the glass bottles should be separated out into a black color bin. Now we are going to conclude this module. Food service establishments can be a very significant source of foodborne diseases if adequate hygienic and sanitary practices are not followed. Yes, there is a need for the establishment of effective systems for the maintenance and cleaning of the food service premises. We need to give adequate emphasis to the pest control and scientific management of waste, along with monitoring and regular reviewing of the systems in place. This is going to help us in maintaining and regulating the process smoothly. We also need to maintain proper records of cleaning, sanitizing schedules, maintenance and calibration of equipments. Action taken reports also should be maintained so that they can be used as a reference in the future. Thank you so much.